Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Boz, and we are Tuesday night. Welcome to our channel on Tuesday night. We have been in a reboot series here this January. So if you've tuned in for the last 2 weeks, you know that the first week of January, we talked about how do you start or restart keto. And although I've been doing keto for, I think, 6 or 7 years now, there's a lot of restarts I've had to do. So I'm an expert at telling you how to restart from personal experience. The second week in January, we talked about the cost of keto. Not just the cost of foods on keto, but what's it really cost your life to not be in a state of ketosis? And this week, we are going to teach you what does it take to be really a solid beginner and hopefully graduate from beginning. Because if you're in your third week of keto, there's some really important things that are happening. Or even if you're rebooting, these wonderful processes of ketosis sometimes don't feel so wonderful if you have some hiccups. So we're going to go through those. By the end of the show, you'll know exactly how to graduate to next week. So welcome to the show. But first, we have some things that we do on this show that are traditional. And one of those is I am a bit of a dork, a bit of an analytical type of physician that definitely needs data. So I like to fast each week, and I am here on your Sunday or Tuesday night. It used to be Sunday nights. Tuesday night, and I am a good 48 hours into my fast, and those are my glucose numbers. This is my ketone numbers. So counting down, ketones of 1.5, glucose of 82. And again, that's later on in the day, which sometimes looks better for me. If I've worked out, the ketones will be a little less. We will check them at the end of the hour, not because I enjoy poking myself, but because I do like to show people that if you're going to supplement with your ketones, please measure. Please measure. There's lots of ketones out there that don't do what they're supposed to do. I'm a fan of bubbles, and so I put ketones with bubbles and use a tongue depressor to stir it. But I do love to see, we've got somebody who just checked in from the Netherlands. We have a couple people from Leesburg, from Floridians, which I've moved to Tampa. And as of January 1, do have malpractice insurance, although don't write in and ask to be a patient yet. I got a lot of work to do before that. I'm learning all about the geography of Florida as a fifth generation South Dakotan who'd spent my first 5 decades there. I could tell you every town in South Dakota and the county seat and the lady who runs the auditor's office. I don't know. I knew a lot of folks in South Dakota. So I am learning a ton about Florida because my son is a wrestler. And as the wrestling season is in full force, we are weighing in frequently. We are not cutting weight to slow down his brain power. We are totally letting this 15-year-old metabolic monster, because he is just so strong and growing so fast, but he has to make weight every week. So we are flexing some really strong metabolic health that I'm proud. It helps me learn about the athletic side of ketosis, but as a mom, I'm really proud of him for how strong he is with a pretty stable mood for a teenager that's in wrestling. All right. So tonight's show, we are going to start with a few things that, again, are traditional. I'm going to hop over to this other page, and here we go. Maybe. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Hopping over to the other page. Let's go here. Circle. There we go. Speaking out loud. So here is a couple things that I wanted to review. Just by way of announcements. Here at the Dr. Boz Show, you might know that I kind of stumbled into ketosis because I know it's really good for brain power. And over this past week, I finished up the second class of people who invested in the brains course. So if you've ever wanted to take a look at some really awesome reviews of people that took that brains course, I would encourage you to get on the Dr. Boz page at bozmd.com and just scroll down and read through what these folks wrote about the class that they joined me on. We'll probably do a follow-up question and answer for that group in a few weeks, but I can't tell you how much it means to me when they come into that course really hungry for how do you get the best brain, and realizing it's not about my prescriptions. Yes, ketosis has a little bit to do with it, but there are so many other things to really enhancing that brain into the best of their life. And I'm so thankful that several of them took the time to really write in their reviews and give me the feedback that I've been looking for. It's my favorite work. My favorite work is that brains course. And when I do open up the clinic, those are going to be the folks, the people who have invested in that course are going to be the ones that get my my first invitation to come be a patient. So here I have a couple of other things that I do as tradition here on the Dr. Boz Show. And one of them is these book reviews. I am an independent author. I published my first book here in 2018, but the story started in 2015. And it's my goal. I don't know. Let's see if I can blow this up. 2,928 reviews. I really want 3,000 reviews on this book. There's no magic to it. It's just a goal I set, but I set it a couple years ago, and I keep looking one at a time for the people who leave reviews for the book that they've written. I mean, some people are asking, how do I get other people to learn about the keto diet? How do I get them into this world that's really saved my life? And I'm like, I'll tell you, quit talking about it and share the book any way you can. It's 80% story and 20% or maybe 70% story, 30% science. And it really has a way of capturing people into the story of a ketogenic life. But I did get another review for the book, so I'm going to read it out loud. Let's see, where's the name on this one? It just says Amazon customer, but it was a verified purchase, so good job. Said great information, easy to understand, and it was just a few days ago that they posted this. Thank you, Dr. Boz. Your mother's story is so inspiring. Everyone needs this information. I totally agree. I have suffered with pain throughout my body for over 20 years. It gets worse when there's a sudden weather changes during the cold weather. After 3 days of following the keto diet, I didn't have any pain. I wouldn't have imagined this was possible. My mind is so much clearer. Everyone can benefit from this lifestyle. So that is a huge thank you for the one book review on that I got this week. Let's move on to ketoContinuum, which if you are looking for some advanced lessons in ketosis, this is where you find them. Any Way You Can is the book that's lots of story, but I mention it because it's a huge part of just how I ended up here. ketoContinuum, this is the workbook, and I don't think I've had any reviews in the last week for the workbook. I scroll down here just a second. Yeah, the last one was Carol, who wrote awesome. She wrote a book review for Any Way You Can. She wrote a book review for the workbook, and she wrote a book review for ketoContinuum. So you win. You're my favorite. All right, but this one is the review of the week that comes in, and Maureen does win because she actually wrote about both reviews. It's just that Amazon only counts it when you actually put it in both, but she writes a great review. So here's what she said. Maureen says, this book and workbook that goes with it, which is not necessary but extremely helpful, is a step-by-step guide through the keto diet to weight loss and improved health. I love the science behind what a ketogenic lifestyle can provide, but you don't have to be a science geek like me. Dr. Boz does an excellent job of explaining what ketosis is, what it can do for you, why it works, and how to make it work for you in a way that's not only easy to understand, but engaging as well. The workbook has exercises for you to help you really understand your motivations and charts you can use to track your progress in several areas. It's not a must-have, but it certainly adds another layer of support, and who can't use that when trying to lose weight and improve one's health? Thank you, Dr. Boz, for improving my health one ketone at a time, which is what we say around here. Maureen from Nebraska, you win. That's a fantastic review, and I really appreciate it. So let's circle back to what I am excited to talk to you about, and also, wrong button there. Also very curious to hear where folks are at. So if you did reboot at the beginning of the year, or even if you're still trying to figure this out and you're back been pushing reset for the third or fourth time, you're not alone. That there are some major processes that happen in the first month of the ketogenic diet. I am an internal medicine physician, and I really I have a lot of guilt over not using this diet, this approach to health for the last 15 years. But what I have lost in time, I'm making up in powerful effort in free content that I can give to you as much as possible. And one of the ways that I do that is this show, but I also ask you to lead a support group. I started doing that here in Tampa. We've had our third group today. We meet on Tuesdays at the bowling alley across the parking lot from my office. And oh my gosh, people drive 2 hours to be at an 8 o'clock meeting. That's a lot of traffic, and that's just a lot of sacrifice. But what an amazing compliment to say, no. I really need to do this right this time, and I need a little support. And that support group is free. Show up, ask questions. It is my way to contribute to not only my community, but to offer that to patients that are looking for some encouragement. Now that I have malpractice insurance, it is not a doctor-patient relationship there, just like this isn't, but I do enjoy educating people through their stories, through stories of my patients. And I pray, and I would love for you to pray with me, that I can see patients maybe by the summer at this rate. There's just a lot going on. And I don't know if you've seen the regulations under a medical clinic, but it's setting me back in dollars and energy on how to get compliant with all of the rules, even in Florida where they're moving on. So as we look at this week, though, I really find that week 3 is a time where if I just back up and educate you on some of the things that I think you should know, but it's amazing to me how much people really don't know about metabolism and why they do or do not feel full. Excuse me there. So having a entrance into ketosis, just like that book review a few minutes ago where they say, geez, doc, my pain is all gone. Why does that happen? That happens here in the 3rd week. That's really where this becomes a really fun environment for learning about not just the ketogenic diet, but what ketosis does inside. So let's go back. And when you first start on the ketogenic diet, they were eating every 2 to 4 hours. And then we say, all right, drop your total carbs to less than 20. And you will start to eat less. And that is what I would like to focus on for the first tool that I want people to understand is using a hormone that you haven't been able to use before. So let me just flip over to this wide lens here. If you look at what happens inside that first 3 weeks of the KetoContinuum, by dropping those carbohydrates and shifting that body into a state of ketosis, you are now one step closer to sweeping away the inflammation from your system. How do you do that? You got to lower insulin. The whole process of what is happening to these chronic diseases, these chronic illnesses, is this accumulation of the hormone that insulates you. That is insulin. It will put on the fat, but it also is a promotion of growth, especially in areas that are linked to inflammation. So as we push you down to 20 total carbs or less and then say, all right, now just wait. And you need to wait until this magical moment when you're like, okay, I do not miss meals. People who miss meals must be crazy. That's the language people talk about before keto. And then this moment happens where they're like, oh my gosh, my day was so busy today, I forgot to eat. I mean, who forgets to eat? If you're not on keto, lots of people, no one forgets to eat. They think that it's crazy that people would forget to eat. But there is this magical process that happens in your body that I really insist people do not move on to these higher levels of, extended fasting or time restricted eating. I'm like, nope, you just, the only thing you do is you get out an application to count carbs. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And you stick to 20 total carbs or less. And as your body shifts, there are hormones within your body that are built from fat that are linked to whatever is happening to your fat. The same rules apply to these fat-based hormones. they link you to a suppression of hunger, that you feel satiated and full. I think it's fascinating. If you do read the book any way you can, I have this statement in there saying, I want you to go eat a stick of butter. And everybody freaks out like, oh, what? I'm like, no. Just go get some butter, maybe put a little salt on it, and just start eating the stick of butter. And the purpose of having them do that is it has been so long since their body really felt full that the amount of hormones of feeling satiated or full, it's like they don't exist in their body. So I usually ask them to eat that stick of butter in the morning so nothing else has gone in. There's no like sprinkled carbs somewhere. They're fasted because they've been sleeping, and they start to eat this really high fat content. Now they're probably going to get diarrhea, but the most important part is about 2/3 away through the stick of butter, it's like they can't eat another bite. There's this heaviness of nausea, like, I do not want to eat one more stinking bite. And that is the chemistry that I'm trying to wake up when I get people in this beginner stage of the keto continuum, and I say, do not progress, do not hop forward, do not skip down. I need you to stick right here in keto continuum number 3 until you skip a meal by accident. And that's when I know you've dropped your carbs to 20 or less. And some folks are so insulin resistant, they've been under the bath of insulin for so long that the hormones that are in charge of signaling your brain that it's full, they're just they're wimpy. They're like this little whisper of a hormone, and they really can't feel full. There's not enough hormone there to do that. I don't care how much you stretch your stomach, it's not nearly as powerful as what happens when you deliver these fat-based hormones. But if you have excess insulin around, just like every single fat molecule of nutrition will get stored into storage, your fat-based hormones cannot circulate and pulsate and use their endocrine power to suppress appetite. So you're fighting your own chemistry. And when I ask people to, enter onto the keto continuum, and I say, all right, now pause, just wait. Let me show you that that again. So here is the keto continuum that says, they eat every 2 hours, they go here, now they accidentally miss a meal. And I want you to notice that over here, you still have that we are in those first few weeks. If you're rebooting, sometimes this happens within the first week because they're a lot cleaner in their chemistry, so they can shift into ketosis much quicker. But when I look at, let's go here for just a second. Boom, here. When I look at this full chart, this is the full continuum of the keto continuum. What I like people to notice is I'm doing really a lot in the area of I don't want you focusing on checking your blood stick fingers like I'm doing here. I only want you peeing on ketones because I don't want you wasting any brain energy in any place except focusing on keeping those total carbs less than 20 and then waiting for that feeling, waiting for that moment where, gosh, my body was so good at delivering energy to me that I didn't get hungry. And that's because fat is flowing. Ketones come from fat, especially stored fat. It comes from a few things, but especially stored fat. And when the ketones are flowing, when you're keto adapted, the first thing that happens is those endocrine hormones based in fat can surge when they're supposed to, and you just don't feel hungry. And I just think, there's a lot to be said for those first few steps. It says up here, who does the work for this part of the diet? And I'm telling you, I want the chemistry to carry you. I do not want you lifting this. When I look at beginners to say, can you do the next thing? Can you do the next thing? I'm like, put the brakes on, girl. This is not going to help you until you have these hormones on your side. And that need to just rush to the end and get the weight loss and be in a zone like I'm in after 6+ years of doing this. They're like, I want to do it like that. I'm like, you can't rush this. Your hormones have to come with you, and you'll know the hormones are there if you're peeing ketones. That's number one. You got it. You're not in ketosis if you're not measuring. And then number 2 is you got to wait until you accidentally miss a meal. And there's a lot of psychology there where people are like, I can just force myself to miss a meal. I'm like, well, then you're not sure that your hormones are there. And then there's the opposite of people who are so used to eating that they eat by the clock. I would encourage you to be busy. And on one of those busy days, let your chemistry lift you. Let it carry you. Let it do the work. When I look at some of the other things that I try to focus on, if you look at this part right here, it says fat supplies the resources needed to make fat-built hormones. Fat-based hormones approach healthy levels, and appetite decreases according to this chemistry. So this column of the keto continuum is just the guidelines, and then I will often just say, well, what happens? What are the next little steps that I encourage people with, and that is, don't look at the scale. Please don't look at the scale. I need you really honing in on listening for hunger, listening for satiety. And boy, I've seen people just rush past this and just say, oh, I'm fine. I'm just going to go to 2 meals a day and just keep going. And they fall. And people fall. You're going to fall. I've fallen. But what I really like is when people fall and don't fall past keto continuum number 4. Which is the next step. So if you look on this keto continuum, you'll notice that this red line here means that it's a different category. Instead of the chemistry carrying you, we are now going to ask you to do something a little more difficult. Before I do that, I'm going to show you another tool that I really enjoy putting in that first that beginner's toolbox. So for those of you that have or have looked into the workbook, this is one of the charts from that second week of what do I want you to focus on the second week. And I'll just hone that in a little bit more. That in the second week, I have them checking things like what's your blood pressure, what's your heart rate. Today at our support group here in Tampa, I had a few people that, boy, they've just had some tough setbacks in their health, and they really want to go all in carnivore, push to the, and that's fine. But as you're doing carnivore, as they push that chemistry into that really strict low insulin state, that's good. That's very good. But there's some struggles that they'll have. One guy was presented today about he was on the keto diet. He did really well, lost some pounds. COVID hit, and he didn't do so well, like a lot of us. And unfortunately, in that process, he had a heart attack and ended up with 4-vessel bypass. And now he comes and he's ready to, be really good about keto again. And he's on a couple blood pressure medicines, a statin. He's got some other prescription medications, and those are protocol. That's what the physicians are going to say when you don't manage your chemistry, when your body starts to inflame from the inside out. We can reverse a lot of that with keto, but not tomorrow. This takes time. And so in his case, I just like with anybody who's really starting and they're trying to get these goals that are lofty, and they are achievable, but they are achievable if you slowly step through some of these changes. And even though this man was going all the way to carnivore, I don't mind that he's doing all the way to carnivore. I mind that you got to check some of these things and keep track of them, because there's no person in the whole world that can monitor this as closely as it needs to be monitored in those first few weeks, especially if they've had health problems. So, I encourage him to fill out this chart. Here's what's your blood pressure, what's your heart rate, how many times did you pee on your little ketone strip that week or that day, and in that time, did you end up with the ketones always present, and not just once or twice during the day, but every time he urinates, I want him checking those ketones. Other things, I want him totaling his carbohydrates. Bowel activity is super important those first couple weeks. If you're in the first couple weeks, there's a couple of really good tricks in how to reverse that. But then I show them what I want him to do, and I would ask anybody in that first few weeks. Now this says week 5 at the top is about when people get to keto continuum number 3. So they're trying to find that moment when they miss a meal. And so I've got the 7 days across the top there, and I'm still having them check their blood pressure, check their ketones, really talk about the struggles of magnesium, and we've got some I've got several things that I have them follow. But the most important part is this section right here, where I need you tracking what time those meals are, and by studying yourself just a little bit. This is not that heavy of a workbook, but in that first meal, second meal, third meal on Monday, what time did you eat on Tuesday? What time did you eat on Wednesday? And then looking down here to see what's the date that you accidentally missed a meal. Other things that I think are really important during that first few weeks is just to get them used to tracking what their sleep is, and then I only let them weigh in once a week. So as they get to that moment where, whether they force the missed meal, I hope they don't do that. I really like you using your hormones to miss that meal. The next page in the book has to do with KetoContinuum 4 and 5. So we're only going to focus on 4 today. 5 we'll do in either next week or the following week. But again, we measure these same things, but it is that moment where the chemistry will not carry you. The chemistry will be there to make it easier, but you have to make a choice of not of only eating 2 meals a day. So going back to this chart here, where when I look at the most difficult part for people learning a skill set that should be easy but sometimes isn't, and that is, how do you stop eating when you're used to eating? And so this part right here, I don't know if you can see that sideways, it says you have to do this work. You have to put in a little bit of discipline. And I know people really want to do that at the beginning when they're all gung-ho about it, but when I look at the place to reserve their white knuckles, their discipline, their strictness that they want to show up and do this, I'll talk about save it for Continuum number 4, where I'm asking only eat twice a day, only put those two times where calories are put in and consumed twice a day. That it is another. So let's just review a couple things here to make sure I'm following along with what I'm saying. So the first thing I talk about for people who are on that keto diet, they're doing pretty well, and they want to say, how can I go to these next levels? I really care that you're not counting protein, you're not counting grams of fat, you are only counting carbohydrates until you miss a meal. And then I have you count meals. I want you to step over the threshold when your life says, okay, I can do the next step, which is 2 meals a day. Stepping over that next threshold, not doing anything else. Still, if you're going to use I was just going to pull up in my chronometer app here, because it is one of the tools that I don't know if you've used chronometer app, but it is my favorite. I don't know if I can show you I don't know if you can see that. So see that that there, that's what the little signal looks like. And when you go in, it is the most accurate collection of nutrition data for tracking carbohydrates. It can get distracting about looking at the protein and looking at the fat, but especially in this beginner stage, stop doing that. I want you measuring ketones, just urine ketones. I want you counting carbohydrates, and once you miss the meal, keep counting carbohydrates, but now you can count meals. Don't start counting protein. Don't look at your fat. I need you really understanding what the signal feels like for that surge of hormones, which are built on fat, which circulate with your fat. And if your fat's not moving, if you can't feel full, I don't care how disciplined you are, you're going to fail when we get to these next steps. I have to have your endocrine system on board and assisting you in these next layers. All right, so some other resources that some other tools. So we talked about tools of, that consistently keto, or waiting for satiety, looking at the chronometer app, and I really like this one. This past week, if you are, wait a minute here, go to. hold on, this one. And we will take away this guy and oh, I don't want that there anymore. Got it. Hold on here. Just don't run away. Why can't I see this? Oh, I know what I did wrong. Got it. Sorry. This is where I meant to click. All right. So the other resource that in the past week, let's see here, take away. There we go. In the past week, if I look at the email that we sent out to our people that are subscribed to our page, we had keto, when we talked about the cost of keto being less, we all posted pictures of what's going on inside our cupboards because it's those cupboards that are the therapy that we've all used in the past when we're feeling lonesome or when we're feeling a difficult time. But here on the Dr. Boz page, this is what we posted this week, is that in our email, we attached one of the pieces of paper that's inside the book, but we just sent it to you in a PDF form that says, you're not hungry, you're bored, shut the door. And there was this picture of a cartoon of your refrigerator and said, this is a really big deal. When you're trying to train yourself to not comfort with food, there is just a little bit of a helper to get you to stop doing something that's mindless, that you've done so often that you don't think about it. So when I look at the comments that are under here, I have to show off some of these. These are great. So they hang it right in the fridge, and it's meant to help you stop. Just shut the door. Don't eat right now. And when I look at people who say, I ate 2 meals a day for a couple days and then I went on to fasting, I say, slow down. We want you to eat 2 meals a day, 7 consecutive days in a row. And what we're hoping for in those 7 days is that life hits you, that you struggle. And then you see, how strong is this skill? Did you get to practice it? This is one of my favorite people on the Neurons page. And she says, you're not hungry, shut the dang door and walk away. And Tammy is just a huge resource for helping other people walk through this keto journey. She teaches others through keto and uses a lot of the resources from the Dr. Boz page to help make her job easier and to stick with what the science is. And I'd like to put her in charge of all of my patients in the future clinic because she's really good at just encouraging them. Look at that beautiful fridge full of keto stuff. I actually don't know what that yellow thing is there, but let's hope it's a big thing of mustard. I don't think it is, but I don't know what that is. It looks like orange juice, but I'm guessing if they're showing off keto that it's probably not. But there's another couple of really fun ones in here. Let me see if I can back out of here. No, I got it too big. Hold on. There we go. So there's one in here that I just want to show off because it's very funny. This person, I love it. They hung they said, this is the guide that I have on there. That's the list of foods that I say, hey, pick these. But there's one of them in here that says, I don't know if I can read it. But there we go. Pulling it up just a little bit. You're not hungry. You are bored. Shut the door. So the part that I'm saying here is that when you look at, not only is printing that paper out and, going through the act of saying, how can I retrain my brain to not just start eating when I open that refrigerator door, but doing little activities like this where you say, guess what? You are not the only one to struggle with this. And let me show you the other people who've succeeded by stumbling over this problem of stop the automatics that are built into your life and just fix one tiny little thing. It is through those these tiny little changes and that's really what the KetoContinuum is all about. Not only for a science-based reason, like when people come in, and if you watched The American Tradition, which is our documentary of following my sister-in-law Michelle through her restart of keto, as soon as she was doing good enough to feel a little satiated, she's like, I want to start fasting. I feel like I could do it. I'm like, I'm sure you could, especially you've got some pressure on you. We put some cameras watching you. I'm sure you could do it. But it is a powerful transition to say, you see these hormones that are in your system that make you feel better. If they're not surging, you will really have to work hard, and that white knuckling decisions every day become it's just too fragile for when humans make changes. They make little bitty changes and then they stay at that change for a while. Then they make another little bitty change and they stay at that change for a while. And by looking at some of the resources in the Facebook page or in the posting in the community of saying, look, we are also struggling with how do you change and turn off the habit of eating. Posting stuff inside the neurons page to show other people, yep, you struggle too. We had you show off your cupboards to say, did you throw the crap away? Those particle sizes of processed foods are an insane stimulus of insulin. We want you chewing your food. We want whole foods being between your teeth that you bite down on and you swallow. Because the pulverized part of that processed food, whether it's carbs or protein or even pulverized fat, processed fat, is not nearly as good as at lowering insulin. You will stimulate so much more insulin if the particle sizes are small, even if you keep the carbs less than 20. If it's all processed carbs, especially anybody who's been insulin resistant is going to have a setback. Okay, so we've got several of these things. I want to look at my notes over here because we're going to go over to we're going to go over to answering questions. If you haven't typed in your questions, my team is taking those in throughout this live process, and we will totally try to answer several of those in just a couple minutes here. So let's just review the keys that I think if you are looking to say, this is the last time I want to be a beginner keto. And if that's true, that process of saying, just stick with 20 carbs, do not start looking around it. What are my macros and do I need more fat? Well, yes, you should try to eat fat because this is a high-fat diet, but 20 total carbohydrates or less is not insignificant. It's hard to get there. And when you do that, sticking to it until you can feel that satiety is one of the key skills and tools that I ask patients a very poignant question. And usually when I have my support group, there'll be somebody saying, guess what? For the first time in my life, I missed a meal and didn't have it and didn't know it. And it's this moment where they really do understand the power of what hormones will do for you to gracefully graduate you to the next steps. Because as we get to these next levels over the following weeks, we'll talk about some setbacks, but we're going to talk about what it means to restrict that time in the eating and to restrict we're gonna push you. we're gonna try and mimic your behaviors along with. Oh, hold on, no, that's not what I want. Mimic your behaviors along with what your body's doing based on the sun. And we'll talk about that more in the weeks to come. Let me see here. All right, we're gonna go to your questions. And I am going to click on the right button here. Okay. So if we look at some of the questions that have come in, here's our January 18th. And again, I get these questions from you. They were, if you scroll over to the chat and you look at them, these are the ones that that were typed in today. Okay, so Karen S. writes in and says, can the brains course be shared on government property? No, yes, it can. So she's talking about that I was hired by the Department of Defense to teach their leadership about how to heal brains and what do I do in my practice to get a brain to work in peak performance. And it wasn't the Navy SEALs team. These are people in the Midwest that were looking for continuing education, but it was very well attended, and I was contracted to specifically give my time to them for a certain season. It was during that time that I recorded it because I had so many people asking me after that I would visit them in this teaching world. They would say, can you come to my hometown and give it to my school and my preachers and the police department. Just it's amazing. In fact, Pella, Iowa, just typed back in today that that I'll be there the 2nd through the 4th of June in their community, because they're one of the first ones that hired me, right? And they really did get me in a season when I was doing this a lot. And I just have a really soft spot for that community. So I'm going back to Pella, Iowa in June to do the brains course. But if you look at the brains course, it's very expensive. It's $2,500. And it's not because I don't think the whole world should have it. I'm trying to find the leaders who are willing to walk other people through this course by using the online course. So I expect you to make money from it. I expect you to use it and teach other people in your community. But first, let me teach you, which is what I do with those classrooms, and really try to encourage people by walking them through the question and answers that I get every time I give that course, and they inevitably come up in the brains course. So good questions. There's no inhibition. You can. I had a preacher who actually did the course this last time around and is going to give that curriculum about, what did I teach my kids essentially? How do I get my, what is the brain function that I would want a teenager to know? And as my kids were going through their teenage years, it was very easy for me to just find the language that connected with them and their friends and those schools. And it's just a great course. All right, back to this. So the artist in a garden says, why total carbs? Why do so many use net carbs? Can fiber carbs kick you out of ketosis? Yes, well, so especially on this channel, I am looking at people who are not like my son, who has never been overweight, whose metabolism is amazing. He's got no insulin resistance. I'm an internal medicine physician who's taking care of people who need blood pressure medicines, who've got that middle weight that doesn't want to come off. They are at risk for a heart attack, and I will prescribe the medications for them. But it's really not my favorite thing to do. I would much rather prevent the problem from happening. So are there people who can stay in ketosis by using those net carbs? Well, I contend everybody on their first trip through a ketogenic diet will lower their insulin enough to produce ketones. But their body adapts, and the insulin they have overeaten in the past, the carbohydrates they have overeaten in the past stimulate too much insulin. So yes, fiber is a carbohydrate. It is a less than ideal absorbable, meaning you don't absorb it very well, but those carbohydrates in the lumen are going to trigger some insulin response. And if you're insulin resistant, it's going to trigger way more than it's supposed to. So by limiting it to the total carbs instead of net carbs, your chances of really moving down by stimulating that satiety response, those surge of fat-based hormones, that's what I want in your system. That's what ketosis is doing to wipe out the inflammation, to reverse the cytokine storm that is happening in chronic insulin-bathed patients, to reverse some of those autoimmune responses. Maybe they can't reverse the whole disease, but they can totally slow it down. And for heaven's sakes, the brain function alone through those functional MRIs is fascinating to study and is worthy of just trying to seek that out. You aren't going to get that unless you lower the insulin. And that high fiber diet, it's too many carbs for most of my insulin-resistant patients. Great question. I get that a lot. All right, Sharon S. says, can you talk about what happens when you're sick? If you had a bad cold, like you tested positive, she tested negative for COVID, sorry. It's just such a default. And my numbers have been wild. Like blood sugar is 66 and ketone 6.7. So so this is related to your basic metabolic rate. When people get sick, what they underappreciate is how much their body has to do to fight that. And especially if you've been in ketosis and you're following these things, you can see that temperature bump up a little bit. Maybe it's not a true fever, but the burn inside your body, that increased energy to deliver those white blood cells to the area of the infection, and then to stop that replication of a virus, whether it's COVID or influenza. Your system is in charge of that. And so the need for fuel is higher. So especially if you're sticking to a ketogenic diet, your body's going to tap into that fat resources that have been in storage way too long and going to use those as a way to stimulate the energy and the heat needed to heal from that kind of an infection. So those are normal. Those are okay. You'll be fine. Keep going. That's not medical advice. All right, let's go back to, here we go. So the next one is Jerry. Oh, Jerry Cash. I just love him. He shows up every week. He is so encouraging to me. All right. How do I wean from magnesium? It was used to offset the opioid constipation. 20 years of narcotics, suddenly stripped without warning, and still taking 1,600 milligrams of magnesium a day. Well, the magnesium will help. It will flush things out. But if you haven't read that protocol inside the let's see if I can quickly find that. I think it is. Oh, here it is. Okay, so let me find this. So go over to here, and then we're going to go to let's see, that's not, oh, I know what I did. I got to take that away. Just give me a second. I need to think while not talking. How do I do that? Oh, well, it's a handout in my, okay, it's one of the handouts that I should be able to click on. Oh, I know what I did here. Go over here, and then go to, where is that handout? All right, I don't know what I did with it, so I'll just answer your question. So it is the chia seed protocol. So I was going to show you how it works. So if you get the workbook, this is one of those charts that I must have written that out 100 times to patients over the last 20 years in a way that what can I give them that will help to resume the stretch factor to their bowel that doesn't stimulate insulin. Because just like I said, that fiber is a very good way to keep the bowels moving. It's actually not a good way. It's a very common way to keep the bowels moving in our society. And that is they have enough fiber that it stretches the colon out, and that's what causes the peristalsis of the muscles to squeeze the stools along. Especially with opiates, those nerves are broken. They're weak. You're right. That's what opiates do. But I would run this chia seed protocol. And what we do is we stretch your colon until it stimulates a wave of stools. And the other thing about when you put magnesium in, it's just a laxative. It's just stimulating water to flush into the colon and then to flush out the other end. Doing a magnesium float is not a bad idea, Jerry. So if you haven't done one of those, treat yourself to one. I'd love to hear your response. But the second thing is return the stretch factor to the colon by using these chia seeds. And so the protocol takes about 2 or 3 days to get it going. And then you can stop that magnesium or really back off on the magnesium while still using these chia seeds. And it's a magical process where then we just lower by a tablespoon every day or every other day, and that's what the protocol shows you. I'm sorry I couldn't do it here in the moment. But good question, very good question. All right, let's do 3 or 4 more questions here. If I look at diabetic keto rewind. Should we start at the beginning if we fell off, but we've been keto for 3 years? So what I always love when people fall off is the encouragement to say, this time around will be easier. First of all, you know how to count carbs if you're diabetic, and you know how to count carbs if you were keto and then you weren't. It is one of the key things that when I see a patient who's fallen off, if they've been keto for a while, I have them take inventory. And the reason what I mean by that is, what's going on in your life? Why did you fail? Why did you fall off? And sometimes to just reshift the chemistry while you consider that. Like to say, okay, start being perfect tomorrow. You were perfect last year, or maybe it was 2 months ago, whatever it was. It doesn't work. If you add ketones to your chemistry, first of all, it suppresses your appetite. It gets the brain back to feeling better, thinking better, and sleeping better. and those next decisions are easier. When they've been on the KetoContinuum and they've fallen off, I ask them, where were you last successful? And, they go ahead and look at the this KetoContinuum here. Let's go back over here. They look at the KetoContinuum and they say, okay, doc, you're right. I did okay at, oopsie daisy here. I did okay at KetoContinuum, and I was doing, number 6. So they were at advanced 16.8, and they'd been there for 2 or 3 years. So then I say, fail upwards. Go up to either this one, which is the KetoContinuum number 5. So they get to still have that heavy, fatty coffee drink in the morning, and then see if you can succeed there. But as you kind of find your start date and you say, okay, I got to get back on the wagon. I got to do this. I felt so much better. My life was so much better. I tell them, sip on ketones for a week before you start. If your body was used to using a ketone, you fell off and you want to get back on, the transition is a million times easier if you just add the ketones first. Don't change a stinking thing about all the stuff you fell off, but keep sipping every day. Set your start date and then find the continuum. I mean, if they were at 16.8, then I have them go back to 2 meals a day. And like I said earlier in the show, I don't like people to fall below KetoContinuum number 4. If they fall off, I love it if they land at 2 meals a day. But they only do that if their fat-based hormones are surging, if they have those on their side. So I hope that's you. I hope that you have the fat-based hormones there to help you, not just in the moment of working through the next few steps of the KetoContinuum, but to truly to resurrect your health, to really, that it just is such a faster transition the second time around. Okay, last question. Laura writes in and says, I've been keto for a long time, but I've never experienced the lack of hunger. This is not an uncommon question. I can force myself not to eat, but it does not come naturally. I don't touch any sugar substitutes, so not sure where all the satiety comes from. I keep the carbs 20 or less per day, total, not net. Wish I could solve this. I am eating high fat and moderate protein. Okay, so I would totally push you to eat a stick of butter. So this eating a stick of butter isn't like fake news. I actually have had people, I've done this for people. I have my team saying I need to do a short on this, which means one of those 1-minute videos on this. But it is, I need you to experience satiety. And by 2/3 of the way through that stick of butter, I bet you experience the satiety. Especially if you've been keto this long, the surge in fat-based hormones cause a nausea where they cannot take another bite. It's a real feeling. And if you don't understand what the sensation is, it's usually this. I mean, it looks like you're doing all these things right. And when you don't have the sensation in your mind that, oh, that's the satiety, and they have another word for it. And so you're like, I need to link what you're feeling to the word that says, hey, this is the signal from your system that you're full. You'll get there by the end of the stick of butter. Just do it. I would love to see you put a comment into the channel. Okay, so we are going to check numbers and sign on out. I have a few things that if you have not signed up for our email list, that's where we're giving away these free resources. So the last question also has a very big link to the end screen that I want you to see, which is on replay. If you're watching this, there's a video out there that I made saying, when does ketosis really start? Like, how do I really get into this ketosis? And once you're in the ketogenic diet, it can be difficult to say, am I in ketosis? What really makes me feel better? So if you have some questions about that, click the link at the end of the show, and I'm going to check my numbers at the end of my ketones in a can and see if they've changed. I can't remember what they were. It really helps if I drink the ketones before I measure, so I don't know how much of this. I drank some. All right, here we go. And then as soon as this show is over, I push end and run across town to go get my son who's at wrestling practice. So ketone, there's the first one. The other thing that our team is doing is, so ketone stayed at 1.5 because I probably didn't drink too much. And my glucose did go up there. It's probably the stress. I try not to show it, but in fact, actually, let me check it one more time. Let me check that glucose one more time because I'm not sure of that. I'm not confident of that. And this is another thing that I was trying to talk about when I use that support group in the morning, is that there are several nuances to continuing on and watching for the mistakes found in the ketogenic diet. As I look at the support group that was there this morning, and if you live in the Tampa area, 4809 North Armenia, that's where my office is, and there's a bowling alley in the parking lot called Pin Chasers. And that bowling alley is where we host the free Dr. Boz support group from 8 to 9 on Tuesdays. And we are in week 3, so I'm doing I love it. I absolutely love it. So here's the glucose. The ketones were 1.5. Yeah, that feels better. 77 is the glucose. So again, I really squeezed the blood out of my finger for that high blood sugar. When it jumps 15, 20 points like that, I don't feel that stressed. But it makes me want to recheck it again. If I'm squeezing the blood out of my finger at the end and it's not a really good, droplet, you'll see the sugars rise. It's not a true measure, so check it again. All right, well, that's a wrap for the show. I really do appreciate you guys checking in. If you haven't signed up for my email, we got some more free resources coming out every week. Michelle and I are writing those emails together. She's writing, and I'm trying to encourage her, actually. So we are the Dr. Boz Show, reversing your health problems and improving your health one ketone at a time. We'll see you next Tuesday, everybody. Thank you for your support.